So My Little Pony has had many episodes which had parts I didn't like. In fact, there are an alarmingly large number of episodes where I didn't like the ending, which is a real shame since the ending is the most important part of any story. But I've also believed that hating parts of an episode is not enough to call it a bad episode. Out of 61 episodes, there are only 4 I would actually go as far to say are bad episodes. Feeling Pinky Keen, The Mysterious Mare Duel, Ponyville Confidential, and May the Best Pet Win. Yes people, that's right, this is going to be a negative review. But please do bear with me and leave your comments till the end of the review. I'm not asking you to agree with me. I only ask that you respect my opinion. I am of course completely open to counter-arguments, but please listen to what I have to say first. What's odd about my dislike for May the Best Pet Win is that while I knew I didn't like it from the first time I saw it, I didn't really know why I didn't like it. The first time I saw it I was like, oh, that was lame. Song was lame. Rainbow Dash was stupid and pets were boring. Ugh. Yeah, I figured I was just too tired, so I came back to it the next day and watched it again. And I just wasn't feeling it. This episode was just not working for me. So I figured I'd check out a few other bronies' thoughts. Maybe they'd be able to explain to me why this episode sucked. No, of course not. Everyone else loved it. Okay, that's it, I said to myself. I'm going to watch this episode to death until I love it too. As a result, I think I've seen this episode more than any other in the show's history. And I still don't like it! Why? Well, in this review, I'm going to attempt to figure that out after over a year of it bugging the crap out of me. So yeah, you could say this review is really more for my benefit than yours. But I'll try to make it as entertaining as possible all the same. So, enough beating around the bush, let's get started. So, right off the bat, we have one of the strangest pre-title sequences in the show's history. Yeah, I know it's a dream, so it kind of makes sense for it to not make sense, but that still doesn't explain why we're seeing it. Now, normally I do like these pre-title sequences that don't actually have much to do with the main plot. They work well as a bit of humour. Pinky singing her party invitations and getting more and more tired, for example. But this just left me confused as to why we were watching it. Was it meant to be funny? Guess what, guys? Just having a bunch of random stuff happen is not funny. Anyone who saw the movie Dude, Where's My Car could tell you that. Wait. I did not just compare one of the worst comedies of all time to an episode of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. Oh, jeez. I'm sorry, guys. It won't happen again. So then we find out about this pet playdate that they do every week, and Rainbow has just never been a part of it because she doesn't own a pet herself.
Not much point of a pony pet playdate for me if I'm a pony without a pet, right?
I'm going to disagree with you there, Rainbow. See, the point of this kind of pet playdate is that it's a reason for them to hang out together and for their pets to get some exercise. You don't actually need a pet to participate. In fact, the fact you don't have a pet right now is all the more reason for you to be part of this. It would give you the chance to see what kind of enjoyment you can get out of playing with the other 5's pets. But no, she just decides she wants a pet now. I guess it has just never been brought to her attention before now that she was the only one that didn't have a pet. Another thing that bugs me about this is that this would have been a good chance to show the other 5 properly interacting with their pets. Okay, so we've seen a decent amount of Gummy and Opal, but Winona and Aloysius have both been in only one episode before this. It would also have been nice to see Angel and Fluttershy interacting without Angel acting like a dick towards her. But no, instead it's just, BAM! The pet playdate. BAM! Rainbow Dash wants a pet. BAM! Choosing a pet at Fluttershy's house. It was all a bit abrupt for me. So now we move on to the first thing I always think of when I think about why I don't like this episode. The Find a Pet song. Now, I'm no expert on what makes a good song and what doesn't, but I know when I hate a song. I hate this song. The tune is far too sugary for my liking, and the lyrics are nothing more than regular dialogue put to a tune. That actually seems kind of lazy to me. Like, did they originally have Rainbow and Fluttershy just talking in this scene, and then they realised that they needed a song so they just had them sing the dialogue? Now, this kind of thing does work quite well in musicals. In fact, I prefer it. I never really like the way in some musicals a song will end and they will suddenly resort back to regular dialogue. Singing non-stop in a musical makes much more sense to me. My Little Pony is not a musical. Also, there's no chorus, and those are the best bits of the songs in this show. I mean, come on! What memorable songs are there with no chorus? Oh. Right. Yeah. Yeah. They were all pretty awesome. But that doesn't make this song any better. One nice thing about it is that we do get to see a bit of Rainbow and Fluttershy together, which is a pairing I've always wanted to see more of, since they are the only two members of the main six that knew each other as fillies. But hey, Hurricane Fluttershy did it much better. So finally Rainbow chooses her pet. Oh wait, no she doesn't. She holds a contest to decide what the pet will be. And that's pretty much all the rest of this episode is. It's just Rainbow choosing her pet. With the exception of the final scene, we don't see Rainbow taking care of her new pet at all. Isn't that the more interesting part about owning a pet? That long-term commitment to taking care of it, and not just abandoning it as soon as the novelty wears off? The way it can help you through difficult stages of your life? Wouldn't that have been a much more interesting thing to focus on? Oh well, I guess I shouldn't moan about what this episode doesn't do, and instead look at what it does do. So we see Rainbow Dash doing her best impression of a drill sergeant with her potential pets, which I find kind of strange considering none of these animals have to be her pet just because she might want them to be. I mean, in Wonderbolt's Academy, that kind of treatment from Spitfire made sense because they had all applied to be Wonderbolts. Have all these animals applied to be Rainbow's pet? And if so, I'd like to know why, if this is typical of how she's going to treat them. Also, why the heck would anyone want a wasp or a moth as a pet? Isn't that kind of like having bacteria as a pet? I mean, they're basically pests. Now to be fair, there is one moment where Applejack and Twilight question Rainbow's treatment of the animals. But that's it. They never actually speak to Rainbow directly about it, and her attitude never changes for the rest of the episode. By the way, one thing that kind of bugs me about what Twilight says here...
Yeah, like care and attention, love and affection.
To use your own words, Twilight.
Aren't those all the same thing?
So the contest itself is pretty repetitive. Various different physical challenges with all fairly meaningless outcomes. One thing I find kind of mind-blowing is when the bat plays the theme to My Little Pony. How can someone in the show be playing the theme to the show? The show obviously doesn't exist within the world where it's set. Well, I do have a theory. My guess is it's the theme to some other TV show called My Little Person, which has a target audience of young colts, but it has gained a large following of fully grown mares that call themselves Maresons. But there are also mares that think Maresons are just weird and say stuff like, "You like a show meant for young colts? Get a life. What are you, a lesbian or something?" And maybe Rainbow herself is a Mareson, which would explain why she thought the bat playing the theme to the show was so awesome. Nah, that'd be ridiculous. Anyway, back to the contest. The only thing that happens that really means anything is the fact that the tortoise fails miserably. Which brings me on to the other big problem with this episode. You could see this ending coming a mile off. Now, I do like twists normally, especially in this show, like in the very next episode. I did not expect Mare Duell to be all of the other five, and I did not expect Twilight to end up being right about Cadance in A Canterlot Wedding. Both great twists. But in order for a twist to work, it has to be unexpected. Now, honestly, did you really not expect Rainbow to choose Tank as her pet? Why else would they be putting such a large emphasis on his failure to impress Rainbow? Or even just the fact that Fluttershy puts him into the contest for no apparent reason? I mean, come on guys, can't you at least be a little subtle here? In fact, why is he in Ghastly Gorge at the end? Rainbow had already told him he didn't make the final cut. Now I do have to say, the sequence in Ghastly Gorge is the best part of the episode. This is a cool new location, and there is an interesting idea here with Rainbow thinking that this place isn't dangerous as far as she's concerned, simply because she's been through it many times. The highlight of the episode for me was definitely the 127 hours reference. But I do wonder why Rainbow would think she'd be in there forever, since she knew the other five knew she was in there. But the bigger question I find myself asking here is, why the fuck would this tortoise want to help Rainbow after she's done nothing but insult him the whole episode? Well, there is of course a simple answer to both that question and the questions, why did Fluttershy put him in the contest in the first place, and why is he in Ghastly Gorge at the end? To force the plot in the direction it needed to go. They needed Tank to ultimately become Rainbow's pet, and the only way they could think to do that was to have Fluttershy enter him in the contest for no reason, have him in Ghastly Gorge at the end for no reason, and to have him help out Rainbow at the end for no reason. The ending, while it may have a good lesson, is forced and predictable. Another thing that bugs me that isn't really a criticism of the episode, but I'm going to mention it anyway. Why has Tank never appeared since this episode? Did Rainbow just abandon him right after this episode or something? Doesn't that kind of contradict the message of this episode? Now, to be fair, this show has never been known for its continuity. But heck, Read It and Weep, Baby Cakes, and A Canterlot Wedding, all episodes that aired after this one, have all had continuity nods. So where the heck is Tank? So in conclusion, is May the Best Pet Win the worst episode in the show's history? Absolutely not. Mare Duel and Feeling Pinky Keen were definitely worse. In fact, if this were an episode of a typical kids show, I think I'd enjoy it just fine. It's not like there are any bad lessons in here, other than maybe it's okay to verbally abuse your pets. For a kids show, it's not bad, but that's really the problem. This really feels like an episode to a kids show, and honestly, is that what we are watching the show for? No. We watch this show because the writing and characters are far better than anything a typical kids show gives us. The stories touch on really interesting ideas, and the characters have real depth to them. I don't normally watch kids shows, I just simply cannot get into them. But I can't help but watch this show religiously, because it is just that good. This episode doesn't touch on any interesting ideas or give us any depth to the characters. It's just Rainbow wanting a pet and verbally abusing them the whole time, while the other 5 watch. I think my feelings for May the Best Pet Win are best summed up like this. Imagine someone shows me this painting, and says, "It's called The Red Dot," and asks, "Do you like it?" Well, I certainly can't fault it. It lives up to the title. But no, I don't like it. There isn't really anything to like. It's just a red dot. There's nothing really I find interesting, original, ambitious, or memorable about that. That's May the Best Pet Win's biggest problem. It's not so much that it's bad, it just doesn't give me any reason to like it.